10 News reporter Cole Sullivan has a look back at our year in politics.
With 3 election days and hundreds of candidates across East Tennessee, the year in politics was a busy one.
What is the biggest challenge facing Knox County, and how would you tackle it?
The Knox County mayoral primary turned out to be a squeaker.
John, I believe the biggest challenge facing Knox County is really our infrastructure.
Commissioner Brad Anders lost to WWE wrestler and businessman Glenn Jacobs by just 23 votes in a race that got national attention.
Pro wrestling star
wrestler Kane
just body slammed his way to becoming the likely Republican nominee for mayor.
He went on to win the general election in August and got some advice from outgoing Mayor Tim Burchett.
If I'd leave Glenn with anything, it'd just be 3 words: don't wreck it.
Burchett won his race for Congress, first beating Jimmy Matlock in the Republican primary and then Renee Hoyos in November.
It's magic. I mean, it really is. It's, I guess it's just the realization of a lot of hard work from a lot of people paid off.
He kept up his Twitter habits in Washington.
There's no Litton's rights or ball market number 3s down here.
And caused a bit of a stir in his signature jacket.
And yes, I'm wearing my Carhartt.
Burchett represents the first time in 50 years that someone from the Duncan family hasn't held the 2nd congressional seat. The face of Knox County law enforcement changed as well. Tom Spangler beat Chief Deputy Lee Trammell and took the sheriff's badge.
It's absolutely a fresh start. I think the people of Knoxville and Knox County have spoken and saying, hey, we want to see a change.
A cyber attack on the county's computers jolted the May primary election, but officials say it didn't impact votes.
Every vote that needed to be counted was counted, and we had a fair and free election in Knox County.
Statewide, 2 high-profile races were hard fought. In the governor's race, Bill Lee rose to the top of the Republican primary. He beat Knoxville businessman Randy Boyd, House Speaker Beth Harwell, and Congressman Diane Black in August.
I love y'all deeply.
By November, he had an insurmountable lead in the polls over Democrat Carl Dean.
Quite an honor. It feels very historic.
He'll take over for Bill Haslam in January. On the Senate side, more than $68 million was spent trying to get Marsha Blackburn or Phil Bredesen elected to retiring Senator Bob Corker's seat, and that meant ads. The race got nasty, especially as the polls narrowed. President Trump and Vice President Pence both came to East Tennessee to campaign for Blackburn.
Hello, Johnson City.
In the end, she won and became the first female senator from the state.
We're just really so grateful. Really appreciate the people of the state believing in me.
One of the only seats that changed parties in our area, the state house race between Gloria Johnson and Eddie Smith.
Just checking in to see if you guys plan on voting.
On Election Day, Johnson beat Smith, changing the seat from red to blue. It's among the only flipped seats in a year that saw new faces, but the same party dominating Tennessee. Cole Sullivan, 10 News.